everybody. We're called to order.
Gotta hold on a second. You're not live on.
We're holding because we're not live yet.
I believe the tree will not be here, the tree issue. They pulled.
It got pulled?
YouTube,
Yeah.
this one. Matt got COVID
Oh, no.
and something else. I think they were postponing it anyway.
He's a pretty good substitute. He set it up nice. I think we should keep him.
I think so too.
Are we on now?
We're live.
Okay. Again, welcome to this special meeting of the Nevada City Planning Commission. We're called to order again. This Planning Commission meeting convenes on the ancestral territories of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. Rodney, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Gabby?
Yes. Commissioner Ermshar? Here. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Van Zandt?
Here.
My eyes were blurry. I had them dilated this morning. Vice Chair Cobden?
Here.
And Chair Nye.
Here. This is the time for public hearing, or public comment for items not on the agenda. Some people present or on Zoom are invited to make a public comment for any item not on today's agenda.
We have nobody on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to reorder the agenda today, just for commission convenience. So we'll be hearing item, if no one has any objection, we'll hear item 2 first, the Onyx Theater. If you guys are here, you can come up to the table.
Hello.
Hi. Lisa, would you like to do an introduction for us?
Sure.
What we're considering today?
So, Today, I'd like to discuss the application for the Planning Commission for a site plan review, architectural review, and sign review for the conditional use permit for the Onyx Theater. The proposed expansion includes additional square footage of indoor theater use, indoor and outdoor dining, which was approved last week. The site plan review includes review of the parking, potentially landscaping, siding replacement, removal of stone wainscot, and the existing storefront windows. The sign review we are considering as part of the architecture, but it can be, it's separate action. The sign is a separate action.
So we're considering architectural review. First, and getting to that.
I think since we're all pretty familiar with the project and the proposal, that I won't go into the details on the architecture unless you want me to. Our discussion last week included the paint colors, the siding, the roof overhang on the Searles side, the screening for both the outdoor dining area and the employee area, a potential landscape planter on Searles Avenue. And I think that is the extent of what we've discussed so far.
And regarding the marquee, we asked the last time we met for more specific detail about the marquee, which, if the commission agrees, we haven't received yet, so
Yeah.
well, I think we might want to continue that until you have more details about that.
Perhaps the actual sign approval, yes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
need technical drawings of that to make sure what I'm describing is actually feasible.
Right, and understand how the lighting will occur and all that. Okay, great.
So
So we're
material
extending that.
specifications.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the process of that. Are we calling for a continuance of the sign aspect? Or, yeah, how do we, if we're in agreement about that, how do we proceed in terms of a motion for continuing it, or do we move that to the end of our discussion?
I suppose you could make the motion now if you'd like to, or we could discuss the sign a bit before you make the motion.
Okay, if that's
I'd rather wait to have the final package before we discuss it.
the actual proposal. So a motion to continue the sign aspect of this.
I move to approve, or move to continue the sign approval to the next regular meeting, maybe? Or to a,
You know, I
To
can't
determine
really
date?
pin down a date, if that's okay. I don't really know how long it's going to take for these people to put something together.
okay, to an undetermined date?
To date to be determined?
Yeah.
If that's acceptable,
Future date,
Yeah.
yeah.
How about a second?
Second,
A roll call on that?
Second was,
Peter?
Peter?
Peter. We have Commissioner Ermshire,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant,
yes.
Vice Chair Cobden. Yes. And Chair Nye.
Yes.
Motion carries 2-0.
Okay, thanks. And for clarity about what we're discussing, we'll be discussing the proposal you brought at our last meeting?
yes. I submitted a drawing of a new planter along the Searles frontage.
Oh, okay.
It just happened, I think, like yesterday or something like that, but if you look at your site plan, at least I don't know if I got that into
I can share my screen here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the package.
I didn't notice it.
And then I also submitted some written correspondence from the electrical engineer regarding the freestanding light and its compliance with dark sky standards. So, since our last meeting, have closed off this driveway here and turned it into a sidewalk and put in a planter in this location. And then the owner and I, in the person of Celine Negrete, have continued to discuss the screens, or I'm sorry, those screening elements around the two sides of the building. And now that we have kind of a full contingent of commissioners, it'd be nice to kind of get into an open discussion about that. You know, we have some flexibility about how that all comes out, but we're not really sure what the will of the majority is about heights and density and stuff like that. At any rate, before I leave the light, the correspondence confirms that it's not shown as hooded in that little illustration, but it's available that way and specified that way, that it meets or exceeds that 30% element. So at our last meeting, is this the time for me to just go on, or?
Yeah, this is the time for you to
So
go
our
on, then
la-
we can ask questions.
At our last meeting, there was, mostly for your benefit, Peter, there was a concern expressed about the railing that we had modified facing Argyle. We had changed the top foot of that to essentially a grid of metal with vines growing on it to sort of preserve the owner's desire for an individual sitting in there to not have a view of the street as much. There was concerns expressed at the last meeting that height should be 3 feet instead of 4. That's where we're at on Argyle. The screening elements that face Cyril's, there was discussion about how that is like the employee break room, et cetera, and maybe a lounge for sort of a green room if they had like an event there. And the idea being that the ownership and the management would like for that to stay as screened as possible, but are willing to kind of talk about a mix. Perhaps the top portion of that is a more open look, and right when you reach kind of head height, it turns into a more dense pattern. I mean, we're just here to kind of go through alternatives that might find approval, because there was a concern expressed that they're too tall and they're too dense. That's kind of where we left it off, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of those areas. And so I would welcome some feedback from the commission about those ideas.
And for Peter's benefit, the concern about the Argyle Way, the height of the Argyle Way railing, among some of us, not everybody, was that a 4-foot-high railing would feel closed and unfriendly, I guess, from a daytime perspective on Argyle, as opposed to a feeling of openness and welcoming for people not using the theater, but it's just part of the streetscape. So that was the point.
I can add to that too, because I was one with specifically a recommendation for 3 feet. It's both for the sense of how do these beautiful improvements contribute to the overall vibrancy of the Seven Hills District. And my opinion is, as Tom's basically stating, is like being able to see, what's going on, I think actually perpetuates more interest and more activity. Furthermore, as a person sitting in there, I can tell you at a 4-foot-high level, it could be kind of weird impeding my vision, sitting in a chair. If you've ever done that, you're kind of popping up and down. And then also, really the scale of this building has low clearance. I didn't ask this previously, but I'm sure you do, know what the clearance is beneath that beam that remains on the overhang?
Yeah, that's approximately 7 feet.
So it would be 4 feet of rail with 3 feet of opening. Is that correct?
Yeah, or 3 feet of rail and a foot of vegetated element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll add on too, I was another one who felt similarly to Wendy. If you look at the way the facade is now, it's a shop front, very open, and this is going very much in a different direction. And for all the reasons that Wendy said, I think having a open, inviting shop front in the Seven Hills District as a whole contributes to that area.
That was basically my first reaction to reading it, lower it, so
Can
I
I
appreciate that.
speak to a couple of comments about that?
Please, yeah.
Because I do still feel very strongly about the idea that the compromise of bringing the panel down to 3 feet with the vegetation and the vines taking up that extra space, you know, as the person who will be running the business, we pay attention to every single detail, and we have sat out there and we've mocked up what it would look like for our patrons to come sit out in that space. And right in front of that area is all of our front parking spaces. So what you're looking at is basically a parking lot and cars driving up to you, versus a little bit higher, what you're looking at is the sky, the tree lines behind Minor Mo's. It's just a different view, and I understand that you have to think about from the other perspective of, you know, being on the other side of the street. But there is that concern around ABC. There is no actual rule that I'm aware of that ABC has given us, but in terms of our comfort, because we can't see out there, the staff can't see that outdoor seating area without going out and checking on it, and that's going to be our requirement from ABC. But the lower that is, the more opportunity there is for there to be that potential of somebody reaching over, grabbing a beer, somebody on the other side passing alcohol to the person out in the parking lot. I don't anticipate that, but I do, when I'm looking at all of this, my job is to look at what are all the possibilities, sort of the worst case scenario of what could happen with a particular design. So that lowering of it not only, you know, is in part to give the customers a better experience when they're sitting back there, which, you know, it could be that we just differ in what we would prefer, because it's not going to simply be like a empty space with no life in it in terms of how we make it feel when you're sitting there. I don't think you're going to notice that, like, oh, I can't see that parking lot. It will feel warm and welcoming to the folks back there. But the alcohol part, along with, you know, the truth is there's going to be, I would say that, I mean, maybe this isn't true down the line, but in the beginning, the majority of time, there won't be anyone sitting out there. The majority of time. Because most people right now come because they're going to the movies. So in terms of making it, like, it almost to me would feel better if you don't see all of this empty outdoor seating area, because we're not a restaurant where you're just going to have people coming in during all open hours, taking different areas, be the indoor lounge, outdoor lounge. It will be used, you know, we want it to be there, but it's not as if there'll be people sitting there all day. And in fact, you know, I can almost guarantee it's going to be a small percentage of time, especially in the beginning. And for short periods of time. So I don't know that it's necessarily going to really make it feel as though, oh, there's something happening here because there's people out here talking and drinking and laughing. I want to be sure that that isn't what the impression that some of you might have of what that space will feel like. That's it.
I would just add to the experience of downtown during the COVID. We went to parklets and people were outside, and we've got a lot of outside dining, and we're going to have more. And the issue of passing alcohol in, and I've never heard of that. It's and you know, people are sitting around looking out on the street here downtown, and it doesn't seem to be a deterrent. So that's, I would think the 3 foot would more mimic what we have downtown here.
Do we have a tape measure in the room?
I know we have one up in the office.
I think that would be really useful right now.
This piece, if you have one, great. This piece of paper is 3 feet long, if
Okay.
that's beneficial.
Okay, yeah. Could you
Oriented
hold it
somebody.
up in comparison to the table for me?
The table's probably close to 32.
We can innovate.
I
We're
actually
good.
have a measuring device on my phone, but looks like the table is like 32.
I think Sean's getting one too. I think Sean's getting a tape measure.
I just took one out of my bag. I was thinking, I'm not gonna need this.
You know what,
and-
actually, I
And I'm
have
sitting
one
here
under
thinking,
there.
what does 4
Bag.
foot look like to a seated person?
And then you also have
I
to
don't have
consider
my
the
tape.
seat height.
So it looks like this is about 32.
Yeah.
Probably about here.
So I guess if we're filling in Peter, or if we're expressing, if we're going around, my feeling generally is that when we are given a presentation by really thoughtful businesses and architects, that they have put in more time and hours than we have.
Sorry, I'm communicating with someone who's volunteering a tape measure.
Yay!
Gabby's coming back with one. An official city
Tape measures for everybody. I am inclined to trust the applicant to know what is best for their business and their design, that they have put in the thoughtful approach that they have. I think that if they thought that 3 feet was going to bring more people into their business and into the district, that their bottom line is making money, right? And making sure that their business continues. And I think that personally, when I look at like this picture of the Onyx, what I see as being the welcoming aspect to it is it's signaling itself as a movie theater, not the minor parklet detail, which I love about it, but I also think it's unfair to compare the conversion that they're making to the storefront to either a storefront or to a parklet in downtown. I think that they're two separate areas, and we want to encourage that. Like, I think part of our objective with the Seven Hills Business District is that, yes, we absolutely want to revitalize it, but not necessarily in the same image as historic downtown. We want different options for our residents and tourists and visitors, and I worry that we are imposing standards on an opportunity to do something new and different without respecting the depth by which the presenters are coming to us. And I'm sorry if that, I don't want to be coming down on you guys. I worry that we're being that we're overreaching with the 3 feet versus 4 feet.
If I may, I'll
Please,
start with
yes.
a robust and heartfelt agreement with the first part. Our architects and certainly the applicants, the Onyx, have created something really beautiful. And our goal, our intent is not at all to micromanage or do design by committee, but their concern is for the interior experience and standalone beauty of the project, both of which are not to be debated, I think. But our job in architectural review, as I see it, is to advocate for the overall city. What the exterior effect of all projects we review have on the neighborhood, and this will be a maximum improvement on the neighborhood, and yet we have the opportunity and the mandate to make it invite you to help us make it seem more inviting to the public at large.
One quick comment to that?
Sure.
But we did talk about this at the advisory committee, because you did say that our job is about the environment inside. I honestly say our job starts with our website. Our job starts with, once people decide they're going to come see a movie at the Onyx, and how that website looks, the process of going to buy tickets, it absolutely includes the outside. As far as I'm concerned, that's a huge part of when they drive up, what that looks like, what that experience is. So it isn't once they've walked in the doors, it's way before that from my perspective.
I think what Thomas.
I did
yeah,
mention that,
yeah.
that the standalone beauty of your proposal is, no one's questioning that. And we're just considering the citywide perspective in the Seven Hills District are we calling it a district?
Yes.
Neighborhood.
How it contributes to what hopefully will be a very vital revitalization. So it's not, so I don't
Right.
see us as insulting the entirety of these very capable designers. It's more that we're advocating for the city as a whole, and that's what we've been asked to do.
But the way, my objection here is that we're advocating for the city as a whole by the reduction of a fence by a foot, and that seems very,
All details matter.
We do that
Can I
all the
ask a
time.
question? I apologize, Mr. Architect. What is your name again?
I'm Andrew.
Andrew, thank you. Andrew, I'm looking at this beautiful rendering, and I am curious if this is to scale, and which scale is it?
Yeah, I was wondering too, is this the 3-foot height with the?
Because
1 foot?
the proportion of
I
the
asked that same
opening.
question.
Yeah.
So the total height is 4 feet, right, in this rendering?
Yes, that's intended to emulate what's in the most current drawings. As far as scale, as far as like laying a scale on here, I think it's intended to be illustrative more than like a scaled document.
Okay, but if we were to look at proportions, how would you interpret this, you're saying? Like, the metal looks to be less than half, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the proposal is that this lower portion is 3 and this upper portion with the vines on it is 1.
Okay,
People are standing here and this
maybe they're 5 feet tall.
proposed element is almost kind of at their elbow.
5.5.
So that's about 4 feet.
and even, separate of the bodies in there, I'm thinking about the scale of the architecture itself too, and the invitingness of having the actual open air space is slightly larger than the blocked off space, and I find that to be appealing as somebody looking from the outside in.
Yeah.
Which I thought you were saying before that there's 3 feet of open space.
Yeah,
The beam at the gable end is, it looks, it's represented as higher, it looks like
I
it might
think
be
he was
8.
referring, guys, to the area on the left.
Yeah.
Is that,
That's
is
seven-
that
it's got a
each 7
7
feet,
foot.
and the one on the
Yeah, the
right
one-
side that you're
yeah.
looking at
Okay.
Yeah, the
is
existing
going to be higher?
conditions on this one is that this total height is 8 feet and this one's closer to 6.
so if we can we zoom in on the smaller, shorter one? And presuming that's a 3-foot metal screen and then a foot-tall planter, then the open space there is about equal in this rendering. And how does it actually lay out on your plans?
Well, it does show that, the total height is 7 feet, and so with a 4-foot element, there's 3 feet at the top.
So,
When I scale the drawings.
yeah, so technically this rendering might be slightly out of scale in
Yeah,
that
I don't think it's really hitting it exactly.
it would actually go a touch higher than this rendering.
You meaning 3 and 1, 4 foot?
It's like,
Yeah, so the rail would actually be closed off a bit more than this visual, I think.
That looks to me like 3 feet above that looks like
Does
an
it?
accurate rendering, yes.
You don't think it's half? Okay.
No.
There you go.
So it's about that.
this looks like 3,
Yeah.
1, that looks like 3, 1, 3.
And the rendered view, they're,
They're
in
not
my
perfect.
experience,
They're
but
never
they're always in scale.
Okay.
It's a 3D model of a.
That just
of a
does it.
3D document.
Okay.
And we are doing architectural review. When I looked at the first drawing, I kind of said, that looks like it's closed in, there's something, it just didn't fit. And
Because if I'm tracking for sure, to be clear, the original drawings, in fact, were a foot higher. So there was 2 feet of clearance rather than 3. Is that correct?
The top of the 4-foot element changed from, a metal element to a different metal element with the vines on it. So it was always 4.
Okay, it's just the greenery
Yeah.
versus the metal.
Yeah, and then there's 3 feet above the 4 on the east end of the building. And then the west end of the building has a higher structure to it.
Gotcha,
you know.
yeah.
I'll make a comment on your revised proposal. Just state my opinion on this. I think adding greenery to the top, making a greenery feature on the top foot with a 3 foot perforated metal detail below addresses the friendliness concern that I had. And it also maintains the sense of privacy that you'd like very much. Also the concept of a more organic design in the perforated metal, I personally think is really beautiful. The combination of that and the vines, I think, render the height of that railing a non-issue for me. I think it solves the softening issue. That's my opinion.
And I would add that I like with that drawing, you're going to see heads as well as people walking, and I like the idea that there are people are there, they're eating, it gives that message that there's food available.
I don't think there is food available, Peter.
Well, it's an enhanced concession menu. So yeah, you could absolutely have people out there eating their hot dog with their beer
Okay.
or
Their cheese and crackers with their
nachos
wine.
their wine.
Yeah, oh no, that was in the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I think that'll fit downtown, and I think it'll attract people, and it'll look good. So.
And back to my comment about the organic branchy looking perforated metal, I guess you still have to study to see if that's going to be feasible.
The pattern that was presented to you at the last meeting definitely is going to have to get more open. We did analyze that, and it does not provide much more, surprisingly. Like when I look at them side by side, I can see how the numbers are coming out. But it's our commitment to you to make that more open, than this 46% that we had drawn before. The manufacturer on that more geometric one, they've already did the measurements on their
Right.
website. It's like it's 46. And then we did the analysis on this one, and it's surprisingly to me, it's a little north of 46, just by like a couple of percentage points. And so we would have to thin out some of these branches and have a few less branches.
If it still retains like structural integrity after that, but
Yeah, it's definitely got me thinking.
the openings are larger though. I mean, there's more obscure area or occluded area, but there's also, the openings are also larger on the branching
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, again, it was surprising to me because I expected it to be more open, but I think if you look in the image on this revised sample board, that there's some of these kind of major tree branches up to the side. And so we're going to come up with an image that's compatible with the design as well as the mural and so forth, and find one that's,
And do you guys like it?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be sort of an organic image, probably tree branches and things like that, because that's kind of in the mural, kind of feeding in from the side of the mural, at least at this conceptual stage. Cool. So we felt like that would address the openness and kind of tie everything together.
So Andrew, will this branching steel motif be what's along the whole front of the building on the side panels of the doors too?
Yes, yeah. Along Argall, and then on Cyril's, we're proposing that more closed pattern, and that's still up for discussion.
So any further discussion?
Yeah, my comments would be, I agree with the changes that are made have improved, the overall look. I like the branching pattern, I think opening up more will make it even more beautiful. I agree that the greenery softens the top, yet I still have the concerns, about the closed off feel of the building. I agree that most of the time there are not going to be people there. And also most of the time, the building is going to be seen during the day, not backlit like we see it there. It's also on the north side, so it's going to be, in the shade and, somewhat normally darker anyways. So for all those reasons, I'm still, agreeing that it's very beautiful and all that. I still support having the shorter railing and the more open look to the front.
So are we discussing, are we voting?
We're discussing and moving
discussing.
toward a
Decision, and then we'll go to
toward
the next step.
direction.
And the shorter railing, Rod?
Your 3 foot was fine.
Okay.
When you say 3 foot, do you mean 3 foot with the extra
Total.
green?
To-
3
3 foot total.
Total, so it's going to be 2 feet with then 1 foot of green? That's, yeah.
It's I think it's their choice if they want the green or not.
Well,
Chair is grabbing tape
okay,
measure.
oh, sorry, didn't mean to bug you.
I want to demonstrate seated what these heights mean.
Oh, I was going to do that too. Good idea.
So the seat height is probably a little high here, 20.
Usually 17 inches, I
Or
think.
18
Yeah,
thereabouts.
17, 18.
So.
I would
I'll
imagine
I'll bend
those
the
chairs
tape
would be-
measure at heights. This is less tape. So this is 42, or sorry, this is 48. Me
With
modeling
a
48.
tall chair.
With a tall chair. So at 3 inches less, my head is under there. It provides a lot of privacy, and I can, I wouldn't be able to see any cars. This is 42, which is a standard, guardrail height. And then here's, extend that a little long. Not my tape. And this is 36. Which doesn't go toward your goal. If we were all to be, so here's 42, which is standard guard height. Am I being funny, Rod?
No, it's just I can see where it's going. It was good. Continue.
So there we go. I hope you all appreciate that demonstration.
For demonstration.
When you
To a
say
seated person.
standard guard height, you mean
The standard
Code-
guardrail
code
height.
rail.
oh, guardrail?
Yeah,
For like a
railing
deck.
around it.
current deck railing is
42.
42.
Thank
So
you.
you don't fall over.
Got it.
But you don't have to have a rail if it's less than 24 inches.
So there's not a legally required rail here,
Right.
except maybe in one spot.
Yeah, at the very east end, it kind of drops away.
Got it.
Just
What?
at-
Oh, sorry.
Just at the very east end.
Again, the greenery is proposed to be trellised on additional rail.
Yes,
So in effect, that is still a solid rail. It's still a solid rail, it's still a solid surface of metal to 48 inches.
I was envisioning more like a grid, like 4-inch squares or something.
Almost
and then-
like
and then
horse
eventually-
paneling or something, or whatever, hog paneling,
Yes,
whatever they
and
call
then
it. yeah.
eventually the vines would sort of take it over, and that would be the end of it, as far as seeing the metal.
And again, the panel comes in a standard size?
These are going to be custom fabricated if they're 3 feet by X feet.
And if
We
they were
initially
not
were work-
custom, they would be how much?
I'm sorry?
Is there a standard, you said custom, so that implies that there might be a standard size?
Well, yes, like a 4 by 8, so 48 inch tall.
Okay.
Turned on its side was kind of what we were seeing, which is common for a lot of building
Like
materials.
plywood,
Huh?
like a plywood sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, subsequent to our first discussion, we just started saying, well, that's going to have to be custom fabricated. So it's got this tree branch pattern and it's only 3 feet tall. And so it's sort of moved out of a purchased item and into a custom.
Are we happy with 3 and 1?
No.
Is there a majority on that?
Do you have a different proposed height? Do you just want to stick with their original?
With no greenery?
I like the greenery. I think it's a beautiful idea, if it's functional for them. My concern there is that that's a hard upkeep on a parking lot. That you're asking someone, this is like another internal staff decision, and it's out of our hands, but I can't help but think, having had these kinds of jobs before, about having to go outside and water the greenery and I think it would look beautiful.
I would automatically irrigate it is what I was contemplating.
And and in which case, awesome. I think that would be amazing in the summer too. But something I also think when in this discussion is, in spite of, you're correct, it's north facing, but you're still in a parking lot with an expansive parking lot and asphalt. And although most of the time spent in the building is going to be after dark, at a time of year like this, you might be out there at 5 or 6 p.m. it's still going to be very hot. The extra foot might give you some more shade or coolness. I'm just inclined towards a higher wall, but I may be fighting the tide here.
And we do open at, like, right now, we're open at 11.
I would
So
say.
we open early.
My response to that, though, for consideration is when we talked about outdoor dining for the historic district, which is its own thing, that itself is not only a parking lot, it's a road. And I feel like it seems reasonable that the dining standards and the view should not be more of an imposition in the Seven Hills District as it would be in the historic district.
Well,
I'm not
it's-
sure if I follow.
It's
Well, we're not
it's
making.
a nice
yeah.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
and you're really bringing an upgrade in terms of what you're providing, as well as the building looks nice. I like the peak, I like
Right.
it's sitting in a good area, so it's a nice building in a nice area, and it happens to have parking lots. And we're not going to get away from parking lots much.
It's much more than a street, though, I'd say, or a road. It's a road flanked by two very large parking lots. It's hot, it's just very hot, and I also don't, I'm not gonna
Okay.
spend everyone else's time.
Should we take a motion and see where we go with the motion, or?
Don't we also still need to talk about the shaded area or the screened area in back? It's going to be part of the same.
Correct.
We're only halfway through, I think.
Yeah. So I believe you and I are in agreement because I think for their needs, the 4-foot-high rail at the seating area serves them well, and the making 3 feet of perforated metal pattern below with a foot of wire on top that carries a vine addresses my concern about a feeling of friendliness and invitingness for people who are not patrons of the Onyx.
What if?
I think we're agreeing. Is that correct?
Yes, so far, yes.
All right.
I was just having a thought, and I'll wait.
So.
So, wait, you agree with Tom?
A 4-foot total rail.
But 4-foot total.
4-foot
I don't know
total
if
with
I
the top
understood that
foot
is what
being
Amy
greenery.
was.
Yes, that is what
That
I'm
is,
saying.
okay, so you're not in favor of their original design, you're in favor of their modified design?
Yes.
Let's clarify what the original design was.
It didn't have the vines. It had 4 feet.
was metal all the way
It had
up.
4 feet of
But
material.
it was a different screening material.
I thought you
More
were
than
speaking to
explosive.
their
That's the
original
one
design.
That hasn't been discussed is the potential for just the 4 feet of the screening without the vines. So I am kind of a little unclear still on how the planter boxes will look.
That
Would
was
they
my
be on
next
the
question.
outside or the inside?
Yeah, they would be on the outside. I've just shown a simple rectangle mounted to selected columns on the Argall elevation.
And
So
then
that
the
would
vines
be,
grow outwards.
yeah, that would be a similar kind
Okay.
of core tent box, but a very modest size. I mean, slightly smaller than a mailbox kind of thing. Automatic irrigation and maintenance.
Have you picked out a species of
No, we haven't
plant
gotten
that
that
will?
far. Now that I've got a
be okay with-
planter on the site, and then I've got this element as well, I mean, there will be a licensed landscape architect involved in selecting that.
Yeah,
Akebia would be very enthusiastic about growing on that.
Sorry?
What was?
Akebia would be very enthusiastic.
species.
Yeah,
It's a
as a
species.
vine.
Which vine is that?
Akebia,
I'm
Can you
not
spell it?
familiar with it.
Akebia. It grows flowers for about a day, but mostly it's very enthusiastic about vining.
I mean,
And it
Virginia
doesn't tear
creeper
things
too,
apart.
and evergreen vine, I mean, there are many.
My unofficial, like,
Yeah.
you know.
So why don't we go to the back then? I think we've discussed this one, and
I'd like to ask Peter, what's your opinion at this point on any of these proposals?
Oh, I'm so sorry, can I just make one more,
You absolutely may, yeah.
I'll make it quick. If, another idea, I'm wondering if we could do a 3-foot screen with, instead of a foot of greenery, maybe just 6 inches. I thought 42 seemed like a nice height compromise. It's,
And I would note that if it's a, given, I think your point about it being a standard on railings where it's a protective feature,
42.
42,
It's an established height.
it's established height, yeah. And, you know, thinking about experience with that in particular places, I am more open to the 42. I think it does, you come down another 6 inches. 6 inches.
Help me with my math.
Down 6 inches,
The other way.
comes down 6 inches.
How it comes to tape measure 48?
So the metal paneling to 36 inches, and now the the trellis, basically. It's not a planter, it's a trellis.
I guess my point is the overall height
Yes.
is my main concern. You
Yeah.
know, how
Yeah.
exactly the split is done, I am less concerned about.
And I've still sat behind a 42-inch rail in a normal seat height, not a high seat height. It's a little bit annoying for somebody of my height. However, my concern is more for the community and the openness.
Yeah.
And so I would be in support of a 36-inch panel with whatever the math is to get to a 42-inch
I believe it's
trellis.
6 inches.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay over there? That's doable, is it?
You were about to kind of express how you felt, or is that it? I guess you're kind of,
Well, I think I've been feeding in, yeah, I like the
Yeah.
3, I like the 1. If we deciding you're okay, that 6 inches is a better look, I like that actually better than the 1, so.
I also think the greenery is going to grow. There'll be some
Yeah, it'll-
variability in that anyway, right? So-
But I like the idea that it's not gonna be,
It seems like a
Fence
path to
or-
unanimity here on this issue.
the 42 inches.
42.
All in.
Any thoughts about that, or?
How about 44?
43 and a half.
But I do want to just be sure I understand from your perspective, because we are talking about an organic thing, a living thing. And so if we agree to 42, and do we need to have a landscaper come out every time the plants grow an extra inch or two?
no,
No.
no.
No, in
The
my
metal.
opinion, and I can't speak
I
for the rest of the
second
crew,
that.
but like, my opinion is the trellis
Right.
height goes to 42.
Got it.
And, you know,
The
whatever.
plants do what the plants
The
do.
plants do what the
Plants
plants
can
do.
go all the way down, you know, I think that'll
Or
look
all
even
the way
better,
up.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
maybe not, but
Stop it.
Okay,
they'll
thank
do what
you.
they'll do.
I understand.
If we don't move on, we're gonna be past the growing
yet.
season.
So the other
Yeah.
thing was the break area. Based on the use of that space, I think I clarified my position at the last meeting, which is that it makes sense to me that a break area is private. I do share, you know, Rod's concern and comment about how the overall effect of the building is, and that is in part why I was asking for landscape elements to further soften the building on other, you know, perspectives, because, you know, I think we have stucco and metal. Those are all really hard, like modern feeling materials that aren't necessarily soft and inviting, but the landscaping can certainly help with that. The organic patterns that you're leaning towards, I think, help with that also. And so again, I would just say if you can look and find ways to soften with something that feels alive and less sterile or industrial, I think that it fits the neighborhood.
Maybe we propose the same combination.
So a landscape feature in front of the break area?
I think that could be helpful.
Yeah,
What
that's,
what about the landscape feature that they proposed in front, like where the car is to the right?
yeah, I tried to, I don't know if you have an image of the site plan, Lisa, but I focused in on that spot first, and I just found that I could only screen as far as like cars backing out and making like a slight turn to align themselves to leave the parking lot. There was less area here than I thought there was gonna be. When I first heard that suggestion, I went back to the office and first focused on trying to get a planter in here. But it just seemed like the planter would be so small, it didn't seem like it was gonna do a lot, but I'm happy to kind of talk it over. If you look on the,
Here's the site plan, Andrew.
yeah, if you look on the site plan. So, you know, when you back out of this parking stall, you might make a slight turn. So when I envisioned both of these cars doing that, I can't really block access to these stairs, and I can't block access to this ramp, so it really kind of limited the thing down. And that's when I started really focusing on the Cyril's frontage.
Can you tell me the square footage of the enclosure, please? Or the dimensions even are fine?
It is,
Sometimes I can do math.
it's roughly 4 by 14.
Is there a way to do perhaps in each corner like interior planters that then kind of grow through the outside or?
Yeah, I mean, I would defer to the owner about a consideration of maybe a similar mix.
It's not a
to-
request, it's just
Yeah.
brainstorming, so, yeah.
Any other discussion amongst us about the Searles elevation?
I still feel the same way about, looking for a lower height. I mean, I think the 42 would be appropriate over there as well.
Well-
Again, for the same reasons that I wanted to keep the openness.
So duplicating the same design, that's got some appeal, actually.
With the understanding that maybe from what Andrew was saying, that the planting may not work there.
And we have
which is-
another, oh, but.
To clarify, I meant
Come on.
a planter that is in the ground was interfering with the movement of the vehicles and people to those ramps
Okay,
and stairs.
okay.
A planter in the ground wasn't really working.
Got it.
A planter that's mounted on a post or something with a vine,
Okay, thanks for the
resident
clarification.
cavia could work.
Thank you.
And I'll state that I'm in favor of the Searles Avenue elevation of the break area, specifically as presented.
Same.
It's removed from the street by cars and a parking lot, and I think it's really good looking. It's not so close to the public as to, I think, affect the aesthetic sense. I
It's
think the privacy
approximate-
of it feels really great.
It's approximately 75 feet from the back of the sidewalk on Searles to the screening element.
I think it'll also look different when there's a mural on the right side, which is in the plans. I think that that's going to probably do a great deal to soften and welcome. And also
Yeah.
have a conversation with the screen that's on the other side.
Yes.
Do we have it?
Sorry?
Do we have the two elements defined now? So
No, I don't think so.
what,
What's your understanding based on the conversation? Where do you feel like,
Well-
yeah,
Andrew made a recommendation, and if we're not going to duplicate the front design, I will, go along with what he says, because it's in the back and there's traffic and it's, and it's not part of let's see, the attractiveness is in the front, and this is more parking lot, so I'm not,
I would argue sorry to interrupt, Peter.
you're going to argue that it
Don't
should be
argue.
better.
No, I was going to say it makes the parking lot really attractive. It's a beautiful backdrop for a parking lot, that screen, especially when lit from behind.
especially if it had some greenery on it.
Seems like that would be really impractical, though.
And in previous discussions, Celine had expressed the concern about, some ability to separate the employees when they're on break from the patrons kind of walking in and out the door and stuff like that. So, I mean, some conversations should occur here about height and density as well, whether it's plants or.
So the density that is still being proposed is the geometric, more dense material.
We would prefer that, yeah.
More opaque is, to use another word, more opaque, more
Yeah,
privacy there.
this more
More
geometric,
threat-free.
this more geometric one is what we're requesting.
So
Well-
maybe
well-
just first the height. I think you got 3 people who are in favor of the proposed height, and maybe Wendy is too. I don't know.
I'm okay with the proposed height. I'm interested in, and it's most of all based on the function and understanding, the implications of, employees being on break and being accessible to customers and so forth. And architecturally, which is my first role and hat here, I do think it could be done in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. I appreciate that you're bringing the rail down a touch on the rest of the building and adding landscape elements that address what my overall concern was with the panel initially, which is not making this overall project look too, I'm going to use the word industrial again because it's very blocky and the materials are very hard. You know, there's a lot of, you know, just whatever. How did you describe the building last week?
Oh, boy.
Like when we were talking about, you know, what is the style of architecture you're going for? What is the design? And you said-
Mid-century strip
Yeah,
mall
you're
or
like, the
something.
building
Yeah,
is
yeah.
challenged.
I think I wouldn't be able to put it into a
I think you,
category that everybody would recognize.
exactly. I think you said something about like the building, the current architecture is challenged, you know, to like try to make something beautiful. And so far, you know, I think you guys have made some really nice choices. So with the effort to soften in other ways, I am okay with that myself. I think you can compensate and get some of the softness that I think the community will appreciate driving by, and still have that panel at the height that it's proposed.
And that's fine. If we're 4-1 on that, let's go on and talk about the density.
Material, yeah, the density.
material and the density, yeah.
Of the panel on the Searles Avenue side?
Correct.
I'm fine with either. I think I prefer the denser one for the functionality of what they're proposing.
And I would agree with you.
I can go along with that.
Okay.
Sure.
I can as well. I'm also curious about just this railing in the parking lot here. Is that one proposed to, you know, the stairs, I guess? Is that proposed to be the organic-y? So you're really putting them near each other? Does that become busy and distracting instead of having nice continuity, or?
I mean, generally, we're proposing that anything that faces Argyle, you know, anything that faces Argyle on that wing of the building would be that same,
They're all the same?
that denser pattern.
Okay,
And
I
then anything-
gotcha.
You mean Cyril?
Cyrils, anything that faces Cyrils is that denser pattern, and anything
And the
that
other
faces
side of the
Argyle-
building is the other one?
Yeah.
Oh, I like it to match.
Well, I mean, you could have that organic look, but yet be denser. I think because you said right now the density is
It's
roughly
too much.
equivalent.
And then it ties in with your beautiful mural. Could you achieve the privacy you're looking for with a pattern that is more similar to what you're pursuing on the other side?
Yeah.
I don't
Impossible.
believe so, and I will be perfectly honest, I've spoken to staff about this, and I would put a wall there before I would open up that space, because
Anyone in favor of a wall?
they, you know, like I said, they are constantly in conversation with our customers. It's a wonderful thing that we love, but when they are on break, they are legally on break. And if a customer comes up and says, hey, is that movie sold out at 7 o'clock tonight, Zale? Zale's no longer legally on break. And I can't have that happening. So I want them, they work in an environment where there's no outside air. I mean, there's an HVAC, but I mean, not like being in fresh air. There's no natural light for their whole shift. This is an opportunity to give them a place to sit with natural light and, you know, fresh air, and also legally be able to have a break that involves no customer interaction. And, you know, one of the things that I think about that pattern that we have proposed, but I mean, it wouldn't be that exact pattern, is the idea that the density is, you know, going up to 6 feet or so, but as it gets closer to the top, it starts to become, you know, if it was that pattern, right, the pattern starts to become more open, because that actually translates to more airflow.
Yeah.
So that we keep that level of density where staff is standing, and we start opening up as we get closer to the top. That, I'm only really concerned about that. The conversation around the rest of the panels facing Cyrils, I would leave to Andrew, because I don't understand exactly how.
We've got a similar situation where we've got 7 feet to work with on that employee break room, like currently from the sidewalk to the framing. So we've got a 7-foot opening, and so some combination goes in that opening.
I respect your desire for continuity. I also would love to see that, but I think we could also do worse than these two
Right.
beautiful patterns.
I agree. I mean, I think continuity, again, this is the side that you're proposing a future mural will live. And so it's even in closer proximity, visible from the same side, you know, that for me, it's like, oh, well, if you're citing that as a benefit of the other pattern, that it ties in, and naturally you'd want to do it over here too. And at the same time, if you just cannot achieve what you're trying to do, I don't hate this pattern.
I'll just throw in that from a practical standpoint, to get something like the privacy that they'd like for their employees, the branchy pattern would be very large sheets of steel perforated by the, it's just a lot more steel plate, which would be hotter. In fact, it would gather, you know, solar heat, and I don't think there's a gain, I mean, a sufficient gain for continuity to offset the loss in privacy and comfort for the employees.
Okay?
I think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
There are other aspects of color, the color, this stucco color.
The
Yes,
green?
This isn't the proposed, this is the original proposal, this dark one that I have up, and this is the current proposal. Which may appear a little lighter, we're not sure. I mean, here's the color, the Benjamin Moore Caldwell green.
It's a little darker.
Any discussion on that?
I like
Any
it.
other-
I like it. I like the roof thing on the Argyle Way. That was another thing, right, the roof?
Oh, right, right.
The hipped corner thing, return, that's what we called it.
Discussion of structural elements related to the sign, or how the marquee will be contained in the architecture could be part of that discussion. I don't have any argument with the current proposal, but it might open itself up as your technical needs change.
And Tom, what about this, I might not be referring to it right, the modification here, that's what I was saying, I find favorable, looks good.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were talking about,
I'm talking about the Argyle Way
This.
elevation, yeah.
yeah.
So are we somewhere near a motion to approve?
Did you
If I could
Oh,
inquire,
no, we didn't, thank you.
if I could inquire, I didn't quite grasp where the conversation about the,
I said the wrong street name.
that's right. So where did we kind of go to on Cyril's?
on the screening there? I think people were in
All
agreement
of
with,
it, like the height, the material, I just
I
kind
think
of lost
everybody,
track.
I think
Well,
the
I-
agreement was with your proposal. is what I
Yes.
said
Yes,
earlier.
I think that's a good way of
Okay, so
summarizing
the
it.
gym,
At 4 feet?
no,
I mean,
that's kind of what I'm asking.
That's what
is
he's
there's-
asking.
There's kind of like, how dense is it, how tall is it? Actually, it's those two things.
I think
Well,
the denser screen to the ceiling on the staff area,
oh, Searles, I'm sorry, I was confused, I was thinking
I'm
about,
constantly.
I was thinking about Argyle.
and then
Searles.
the railing consistent with the Argyle frontage.
Okay,
Railing.
so,
Wait,
Well,
wait,
railing
wait.
or like whatever am I saying this, the screening, the lower screening?
yeah,
Similar to Argyle? Yes?
Okay,
Well, what I heard you guys discussing was,
We're on Searles.
we get this
We're
page
talking
up.
Searles.
We're on Searles.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay,
except for maybe Rodney, with
With the height
the
as
Cyril
proposed.
side as presented. And as presented is the other design, the more geometric, not the branching.
Can you put it up there so everybody
it's there,
sees?
isn't it?
And the
Yeah.
height that is
Oh, that.
That.
requested.
The circular one, right there.
But it would be upside down, because you're saying.
Right,
Yeah,
Right. Can you turn it upside down for us? I'm kidding.
and then back to Amy, what I think you're saying, if you'll scroll back, Lisa. So the denser pattern would be on the tall panels on the left of the screen, near the door, surrounding the door, and where the rail to the steps are. I think you said the organic pattern.
Is that what you were trying to say?
Is that what you're trying to clarify?
I will take back that part and ask the applicants what they intended to be on where the cursor is now moving.
Andrew, I would assume this is the branching, and this is the branching pattern, and then this is the geometric?
No, they
I
said
think that's what
everything
Tom
on that side of
meant
the
as
building.
Or
proposed.
everything on this side with the.
Right?
It looks like the branching on the railing and over the door.
The illustrator misunderstood and he put the branching everywhere.
Right.
Our proposal as submitted at this time was that this all be geometric, but we're sort of discussing if that's
Right.
acceptable.
So my understanding is one side of the building has all branching, the other side of the building has all geometric.
I'm
And that's
fine.
when I made the funny sound and said, I wish it all matched.
Yep, you did.
Yeah.
I heard you. Let the record show.
Here's the view of the geometric from their first submittal. Bear with me a second.
Well, Well, I think we're there. Is there anything left? We discussed the Argyle side. Now we're discussing this and.
We're just-
We're just clarifying our
Yeah,
agreement.
no, we want to make
And
sure that
Yeah.
the applicants understood what we were saying. Which
So-
is very good.
This was the one that so disappointed the ownership because the renderer was not quite able to get that screening capability of the geometric pattern. It looks more like a lattice that you put under a raised deck. in the
Right.
backyard.
Right.
And it really would be a little bit more closed than what that suggests.
Can you zoom in at all, Lisa, on the, yeah.
He got close, but he doesn't have kind of this
Right.
gradient where it's more open at one end and closed at the other.
What do you think about just using the geometric on the break area and letting the rest of the building match?
I don't suppose that that rail at the stair is as critical as what.
No, I don't think so. I guess for me, my personal aesthetic preference is I don't like matching. I mean, I don't want everything to feel matched. That's in part like why we have a red screening room and a blue screening room. They're similar in design, but there's a difference with the color. And, but
Yeah, I
that
think
being
of it,
said-
I would say that, it doesn't match, but there's continuity around the building for same elements have same pattern, just same elements, different elements have a different pattern,
Right.
We're,
Yeah, this one actually is kind of functioning as a guardrail as opposed to most of Argyle, but that's not really the critical piece here.
So,
It sounds like the owner's okay with that being the more organic.
I'm not gonna argue against it.
Okay.
I'm not the.
does anyone have a strong opinion on this one?
I don't have a strong opinion
No,
either way.
no.
I don't either.
I like the guardrail and the area around the doors in the branching, more organic look, and the more geometric look for the break area, unless that is a stylistic argument from anyone's point of view.
You could argue even that you're not getting matchy-matchy by breaking them up on that wall.
Right.
But-
That's what I interpreted you as saying.
Yeah, I honestly do not have an issue with that idea of
Okay.
keeping the public areas with the
With
more
the same-
organic design and the private
Okay.
areas with a different design.
I
To
don't
make it
care.
clear, this is separate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Differentiates it, okay.
denser material at the organic, or denser material at the break area, leave the height as it is, explore a pattern that makes it a little bit more breathable at the top, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And then the lower elements and the door, the organic pattern.
All right?
Yep.
Okay,
Quick.
Do we do it?
how do I make a
Wait,
motion now?
wait, did Andrew have any other
Oh,
questions?
Public comment,
Yeah.
right.
And if this discussion can always be reviewed if need be, because it's on tape or recorded, you know what I mean? Catch some of the innuendo of the discussion.
And the height, excuse me,
Yeah.
sorry, the height at the break area is 6 feet?
Is that, no, it should be
Is that
taller
what's
than that.
proposed?
There are people who are taller
I
than
mean,
6 feet.
there's a 7-foot opening there if you go there today, from the sidewalk to the underside of the beam above. And so we showed a screen that tops out very near that.
Like 6 inches from the top?
I think we could bring that down a little bit and still give those employees privacy, just a little bit, just so it's more like at the top of somebody's head.
Do you need to bring it down?
I think it would look better full size,
Yeah.
and also,
I
you know,
agree.
when it's raining, like you could still have
Yeah.
the potential of really sitting out there. That is
Whatever the gap is on the bottom, maybe mirror to the top, would
a
that
few inches.
make
Yeah.
sense? Like
Sure.
4 and 4, or 6 and 6, or?
I would do it even like 3 and 3.
If it was an equal height, top and bottom, it would kind of maybe look
Right.
more balanced.
Yeah.
Right,
Whatever.
And enough
whatever
clearance to
decision
hose
about
it
that.
out.
right.
Yeah.
And somewhere between 3 inches and a foot or something, whatever. Well, either we're going to design it to the inch, or we will design it to a concept,
Right.
at this point.
I am inclined to let the applicants decide what
Spacing.
distance spacing works best.
Agree.
So no height restriction,
Well,
break area?
no less than seems, I mean, if we're saying there needs to be a gap, we should probably say no less than whatever gap we're proposing.
A minimum
right?
3 inch, a minimum
3 inch.
3-inch gap at the top and the bottom, is that?
Okay, yeah, that works.
Probably work best from a water splashing standpoint too. It'd become more rusted at the bottom if it were too close to the,
Yeah.
just, but you know all that. Okay,
Did we answer all of Andrew's questions?
do you have any more questions?
I think I'm good. I wrote down what we just talked about. I won't repeat it. And then I wrote on the front of the building on Argyle, 3 feet of metal organic with 6 inches of vine.
And
Or
the-
6 inches of matrix for vine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vine will do as it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we need public comment?
Yes.
Yeah, but why don't we? This is time for public comment on our discussion on this proposal. Anybody in the audience here or online is invited to share their comments.
We have nobody
We have
online.
none.
Well,
So, well, let's have a motion or a series of motions as required. Lisa?
Yes. Will somebody please make a motion to approve the project as categorically exempt from CEQA?
So moved.
Second.
And the second was you?
Brown. Yep.
Commissioner Ermshar?
No, that was, oh,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
yes.
And Chair Nye.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And next motion, the Planning Commission acting as Architectural Review Committee approves the architectural review application as conditioned and presented at the meeting with a 36-inch railing with a 6-inch trellis on the Argyle side way. And on the Searles Avenue side, the hipped corner return roof pattern, the branching pattern at the railing to the entrance and door and around the door, and the geometric pattern at the break area with no height restriction and a minimum of a 3-inch gap at the top and the bottom.
I would add planters,
Yeah, landscape elements.
well, plantings for the top section of the Argyle Way railing.
Okay, with planters at the top section, the top 6 inches of the Argyle Way railing. And making the findings, A and B, that the proposed outdoor enclosure and other architectural improvements are generally compatible with the Nevada City style architecture. And B, that the proposed outdoor enclosures and other architectural improvements are compatible with the context of the surrounding neighborhood.
So moved.
Do we need to make reference to the proposed landscaping also?
Yes,
In the same, in the same motion or separate?
we could do it in the same. So adding the planter near the proposed bike rack on the Searles Avenue side.
So moved.
And the paint color?
And the Benjamin Moore Caldwell Green paint color.
So moved
Okay.
again.
I guess that was already in there, right? So that's not an
Yeah,
amendment,
yeah,
that's
that
not a
was as
condition.
presented,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, great. I got it, okay.
Do we have a second?
I'm going to second, 'cause I got a lot to say. Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Commissioner Ermshar?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Oh my God, Commissioner Van Zant. Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Yay.
Woo! Are we supposed to do that on
This
YouTube?
is going to look good. This is going to really
Yeah.
gussy up that area.
Thank you so
This
much.
isn't the end.
Another,
See you again.
another motion is
Oh,
needed for the
okay.
site plan review, and I should have included the landscaping here. Planning Commission approves the site plan for the approved conditional use, subject to the conditions of approval, and as modified here at the hearing today with the landscaping, that the overall site plan complies with the requirements of zoning code Title 17 of the City Municipal Code and the general plan in a manner that will not substantially depreciate property values in the vicinity or unreasonably interfere with the lawful use and enjoyment of other properties in the vicinity or endanger the public health, safety, and welfare of the community.
So moved. Thank you.
I second.
Okay, Commissioner Ermshar?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes.
Did I miss Commissioner Brown? Did I
One
miss
more,
you?
I need,
Sorry. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
It seems appropriate also to appoint a liaison from the Planning Commission, because there are some things to review, like the pattern of the metal, and if no one objects, or if anybody would like it more, but I'd like to appoint myself. So I'll be the liaison to this project.
So approved. Oh, wait, no, you're a volunteer.
I am.
Was Rod, did you hear Rod was gonna, or I mean,
I didn't hear the motion on the signage.
Russ, I mean.
We motioned to continue it at the beginning, I believe.
Do we need to make a motion to continue that to a future meeting?
We
We did.
We did,
Yeah.
we voted on it.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So that's continued, Russ, to a time that the applicants have specific information about the nature of the sign and the lighting thereof.
Very good, thank you.
Now, yay.
Oh, yeah, woo-hoo, now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your patience with,
Thank you very
you know,
much.
due diligence that, you know, we're excited about this project.
And I'll be there for the 3 o'clock showing if we get out of here in time.
It's fine so far. Like, I need to leave at 1:30 to get back to other engagements.
That would be great. This guy.
Since you are here, and I think we may, our next,
We have 2 applicants here.
Should we do Gold Flat very quickly?
Yeah.
we have architecture review with more information on the
Site level, site plan.
site plan for blanking Gold Flat Road. Is the applicant here? Why don't we look at that, because we've already discussed architectural review with no problems, and we've just asked for more information which has been brought to us. So if you'd like to come forward and join us with,
This is Justina Dune, Dunn.
thanks for joining us.
The proposed project is architectural review for a new 608 square foot residence on a 1.74 acre parcel. This parcel is zoned rural residential Front yard setback is 50 feet, rear is 25, side yards are 6 feet. The access is through 2 neighboring properties. We heard this project last meeting, and staff returned or recommended continuing to this meeting to get more information about access and potential constraints because of public comment, based on public comment. So I have included a few more conditions of approval, and I can share some of those constraints with you if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will go here to the site plan. So basically, before we can sign off on her building permit, we need an updated site plan from the applicant to show the access and the easements more clearly. The access is here off of Gold Flat Road. This is the Jacobson, owned by Jacobson, previously Jacobson Chiropractic. I'm not sure if they're still operating out of there. The
They
building is.
moved over the sign.
Yeah, they moved. So the entrance comes here and is currently paved here and continues onto there's like a path of travel here and then this is the proposed driveway, and it moves along through an easement at the start and then onto the property to the future parking at the residence. So after taking another look at this and speaking to the fire chief about his requirements, Brian did a little markup here for the applicant, and I will go to that. So the 30-foot access easement is in this lower part of the parcel, so 30 feet from this property line. So improvements will need to happen in this corner that's paved currently. This is a 12 and a half feet paved area up here. So yes, the access will be built out down here and then enter into this 20-foot wide easement. And then a hammerhead here, hammerhead turnaround for fire truck access is a requirement of the fire chief.
Okay,
And
any
it's
questions?
It's proposed to be all paved surfacing.
And the applicant is responsible for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a choice?
Well, you have an input.
So for Commissioner Cobden's benefit, we discussed architecture review, and no one had any issues with the planned building. And so we just asked for more information for fire access, and so that's been addressed by the fire chief and the city engineer. Did you have any questions or comments regarding?
No, I think it looks great.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Well, I think we're very close to a motion to approve as presented and conditioned.
I'll motion to approve as presented and conditioned.
I'll second that.
I would point out one thing. I don't know that this mattered as much. The house is actually only 438 square feet, not 600. I don't know that that makes
Oh.
kilobeans, but yeah.
I'm just
It's an
going off of the
impressively small
application.
house.
Which, yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Urquhart?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
And Chair Knight.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. It's very nice when applicants come and join us in person.
Learn that. My boss is John Baker, and he was like, why didn't you go? I will now.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Justina.
And the next item up is architecture review for 100 Willow Valley Road, and 2 commissioners are recusing because of proximity to the project,
That would be me.
and me.
And I also need to excuse myself from the meeting.
Thank you, Amy.
It's great to
And-
see everyone.
And I'm appointing Rodney Brown, our chair for this,
Acting chair.
acting chair for this item.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thanks. Hi,
Hi.
how you doing? Hi,
Hi.
Rodney and Peter.
Hi.
Lisa, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you too.
How are you guys? I'm Tobin.
Terry.
And my
Mind
sister
if I
Terry.
introduce your
Yeah.
project?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I have a question because we're talking about architectural review, as stated, architectural review, because we really are dealing with a variance
Right.
proceeding here, are we not?
Correct.
Or are we doing both?
I think that was a misstatement from Tom, wasn't it? Yeah, I think
thought
that was
we were
just,
looking at a variance.
yeah, I think we're just
so
looking at a variance.
Let's
Variance and
start with
architectural
the,
review.
Oh, we are doing both.
Yes.
Okay.
let's start with the variance, and maybe I can hand these out to you, which is a little enhancement on the site, and then everybody can take a look at these. I don't know if I'm good on these six.
Yeah, Lisa, do you want to go ahead and
Yes.
introduce the item?
So this is for 100 Willow Valley Road. It includes architectural review. The project includes architectural review with a variance request for encroachment into the front yard setback. The proposed project is a remodel and a new garage. Let me get to my description here. So it's an addition of 644 square feet, 322 square feet of which will be conditioned as living space, and 322 square feet added to the garage, for a total living space area of 2,812 square feet and garage of 820 square feet. Does that sound correct? Okay. The proposed improvements would result in approximately a 30% increase in total square footage of the home. And interior improvements include an addition to the main living area, which will include an updated entry, kitchen, and dining room. The majority of the addition will be located on the west end of the home, which is towards the corner of where Willow Valley and, what's that other?
Nevada Street.
Nevada Street.
Well,
And Bourbon Hill.
And Bourbon Hill, correct. A new entry is proposed that will face west with a new deck, a landing, a door, and a shed roof covering. Changes to the existing roof line are also proposed, which we can show here in a minute. Sheets A3.1, A3.2, and A4.1. The existing roof pitch is a 10 and 12 with gable ends style and a bay window. The proposed shed roofs, one on both the east side and the west side of the building, are a 3 and 12 pitch and provide a covering for the new front entry and a covering for the side yard French doors that lead out into their sort of back deck and patio area. The reason for the variance is when I was doing my staff review, I realized that the front yard, which I'm considering the property line on the Willow Valley Road side as their front yard, considering that that is where the driveway enters, the mailbox is, and the front door faces that direction. There's also no other property line that really made sense for me to consider it as the front yard or the front property line. And as such, I requested a variance to the standards because the proposed remodel and garage will be approximately 24 feet from that front property line. So it would encroach into that 30-foot setback by 6 feet. I will note that, oh, am I wrong there? 20,
It's more like 30 inches, but I can verify that. I didn't bring that measurement with me.
okay, I'm going off of what Orion had sent me in the documents. Let's definitely talk about that. And I will note that there was a previous remodel in 2005, a permit in 2005. I requested county site plan and permit drawings for that project, and I've got a sketch here in the staff report that shows how the site plan was laid out at that time, which is, I couldn't really make the best sense of it, I guess is a simple way to say it.
Say that again, sorry.
Okay, so the site plan from 2005, you'll see it here on my screen. They were calling this.
We're not seeing the shooting right now.
Oh, thank you. Let me pull it up. Okay, so this is from the site plan from the 2005 permit. And it's whoever drew this was calling this back side of the house. They defined that as the front, and they gave that side of the house a front setback of 30 feet. And then they called this a 10-foot side setback, I believe. And then a 5-foot side setback here. And then they called this small corner up here, which isn't really, it's more of a triangular shape. They called that the rear setback. So in the interest of not continuing this pattern that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, I was sort of, in a way, needed to make a stance that this was going to be the front property line. The side that faces Willow Valley Road, the door faces this way, the addressing is facing this way. And I don't think that I have their application, original site plan that was submitted available, but let's see. Originally, the submittal included this.
Sorry, the what included? What was
The
the word?
original submittal
Submittal. I didn't get that word.
made
Thank you.
this here, this section, the front setback. So they had this setback at 30 feet. And this side of the property line that faces Willow Valley Road, they had a setback drawn at 10 feet.
So if I'm tracking, the 2005 approval
Yes.
was based off of, where's the compass rose on here? Basically, the top of the page was the front of the property. And then the first version of what came to you for this project showed the left side of the page as the front of the property.
Yes.
And you are recommending that henceforth, the Willow Valley side be considered the front of the property.
Yes.
Gotcha. With the proposed redefinition of the front of the property, how does the building, the current building and proposed building sit relative to the other setbacks?
So the rear yard setback in this zoning is typically at 25 feet, but this is a corner lot, so there's special exceptions that can be made. So we're considering this property line, which is at, where Bourbon Hill branches off of Nevada Street, we're considering that a corner side setback, and then this the front. And then here you can see the original encroachment from the work that was done in 2005. That's this part of the house that's existing there.
So it looks like that's where you get the 30 to 24, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then this is their proposal here,
And that's 30 inches based on what you were saying.
30 feet.
yeah, with these decking and landscaping features.
And Lisa, let me try my question a little bit different, because I don't think I was clear. So reorienting the front of the lot creates an unapproved but existing encroachment on the front setback. Does it create any existing encroachments on other sides of the property?
It does not.
Gotcha.
Not with the remodel,
Thank you.
yeah.
And so so there's now the new corner, sorry, the 3 feet on the corner of the building. There's the decking that's in front that you were pointing to there. And now it looks like there's something also, the deck over on the side, in the side setback.
These are all existing.
So those are existing encroachments.
I think are they landscape elements, or are they?
There's decking in the setback.
And that's a shed, I think it said, right, the top one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
So those are all existing, not being proposed as part of this. Okay.
It's-
Okay, so so there are encroachments then? Okay.
Existing, yes.
Yeah.
May I go over some of this now, or are you done?
Do you have anything else to add, Lisa?
Yes, I would add that with the existing encroachments, the shape of the lot and the irregular shape of the lot being on the corner there, that a variance to standards on the front setback to allow this new development closer to Willow Valley Road and consider that property line the front lot line would be acceptable, and that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let Lisa hand those out to the commissioner so we can all be on the same page. But can we go backwards a little bit in the history? Can you go back to that original
Yeah.
2005 map? So in order to attempt to try to clarify in our proposal, the work that was done back then, this site plan was ill-advised at that time with regard to setbacks. Understandably, I wasn't involved in that project at that time. Also, this outer property line and this point right here was inaccurate, and has been corrected since that particular time was done. And so calling this the front obviously was incorrect, meaning that I agree with you, Lisa, this is definitely the front, okay? So, but prior to Lisa, we had Amy, and we spent some time designing this with Amy to correct these lot lines, these property lines. And our proposal at that time, which we have done with other projects, when we have a triangular lot, when you have a triangle like this and you have a flat section of property here, we considered that the front door was facing that. There was question, of course, as to really what that front really was, but we went with that. It was something that Amy had recommended. Lisa came in and disagreed with that, which is fine. And I think, but when we had that as our front, we were able to design within the revised setback lines, okay? Now, I'm not disagreeing with this being the front. I'm really not. I think that, anybody can say, well, that is our entry and that is Willow Valley, but then we're subject to an odd-shaped lot, which you've already brought to light, right? So, the main consideration now, and in looking at the area that's colored on this map, and we haven't really talked about this yet, but we're not encroaching any more than 3 feet. If you know, if there's any clarification in that, I'm happy to give it to you, but we got about a 3-foot verification, I don't know. But you can see that the proposed line at 30 feet, the line outside of that is 25 feet. So it's easy to see the math. It's only about 2.5 feet, not even 3. So, but that, you know, hopefully that corrects this thing in forever, because I don't think my sister's interested. Terry and Gary are not interested in doing any more additions to the home. But one of the main reasons why this home is being revised this way, because the entrance into the home is very problematic. Okay, it's been problematic. If you look at the driveway, and I've highlighted the existing driveway into the existing garage here, this is a very difficult and steep approach to this existing garage. One of the difficulties too that we get into, that my sister and Gary have lived with for a long time, is people are always trying to turn around in their driveway. And so we're trying to do two things here. We're trying to enhance the front of the house by eliminating all of this concrete and taking the concrete away from around the corner. And so re-landscaping, allowing us a much more appropriate and softened entry to the house. Moving the garage around so we're not looking at the face of the garage. And you know, as now that Willow Valley Road is our front entry, we don't really want to see garage doors. So that's basically why we twisted the garage into that other direction, okay? And then come in, and we're gonna do the best we can to mitigate, and Terry has already started landscaping along this line here in an area that won't be disrupted by the future development. But all of this area around it will be intended to enhance the landscaping. This is not an easy corner to live with. It really isn't. I'm sure you're all familiar with driving in and out of this corner. I live on Bourbon Hill, right behind my sister. I live on the next, that's my home. And boy, it wasn't long ago, I heard a big bam. So we hear them often. This is not an easy street, and I wish people would slow down through here, honestly. It's tough. So, you know, but they're living there. That's one of the reasons why we're changing this driveway. We're going to put a gate on the entrance of the driveway, landscape around it, so that we're going to hide the garage and the garage door entrance and enhance the front. So those are really the main goals in trying to remodel this section of the house.
Yeah, we've had, if I can, I probably have 20 people a day that use my driveway as a turnaround. And so we've had a few accidents there.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and the tow truck out many, many times but, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so those are kind of the main goals.
And the goal is to really, I don't really like looking in someone's garage, you know, and this is kind of a nice gateway to Willow Valley Road. And it will be nice to really bring a lot more landscaping. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the property or not.
Been by, of course.
So, yeah, I brought pictures on how I've been working on the landscaping over it's my really good example chart. But it just shows how I've started the landscaping here. Really, the problematic area is putting any large trees, it's all the electrical. So I came home one day and PG&E had cut down a lot of trees. It happens, you know. But now, so the photinia is great because that will go up to 14 feet, not disrupt, you know, any of the electrical, and I think really nicely hide the house a little bit more and not looking into a garage, so.
We also do have a drainage issue wraps
Yeah, we've been
around
working
this.
on that.
We have built, they have already mitigated this top section, that's all done, I think it goes around. So in anticipation of building this, but this is a large sum of water that runs through from a surface perspective. It's it's been resolved. Yeah, and we had several big trees that got cut down by PG&E. That didn't help, but as far as the back portion, we do have of course, there's a small deck here that encroaches the 5 feet, and there's a shed. In the future of this area, we are planning on remodeling this deck area, and in which, at that point in time, we will be removing everything off of that 5-foot setback. But it's not a part of this proposal at this time. Okay. I don't know if you have any questions, please.
I
Questions?
do
Okay.
have a question about the Photinia, and I can't put myself in this area, but you were talking about boom crash. Is there any concern, or should we have concern about any visibility issues based on the landscaping and how close it might be to the intersection and not being able to see oncoming traffic?
No,
or-
that really,
Brought it up.
pardon me.
Yeah, because it shows in this picture how it's way
It's
up on
back-
the
it's
property.
back that way.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the main intersection that is so problematic kind of wraps around this corner here.
Yep.
And it's not so much that, it's as much as the intersection of this little Hawthorne Street that comes
Gotcha.
into Nevada Street, and then Bourbon Hill comes in as, it's a real cluster. It's
Yeah.
really, I wish we'd put speed bumps and stop signs
Right.
in here, because people, I mean, just fly through.
Right.
Yeah,
It's really,
scary sometimes.
but, and a lot more people, in my experience of now living here 10 years, who I personally can say I live here now. So, you know, the amount of walking in this area has become
huge.
tenfold. It's amazing how many people are walking now in this area and going up and down to Northridge and going down into town. It's unfortunate. You know, that's a different subject, of course, but yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you have questions, Peter?
No, I do not. Well, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Setbacks are important, you know, and they're important in different areas.
Right.
So if you're in a settled area, you know, the extra 3 feet from your neighbor, that makes a difference. That situation is, there no situations are being triggered by this little encroachment, you know. So I'm okay with it.
No, but I like the fact that we're cleaning it up.
That,
I mean, you know,
that's a
that's
plus.
important going forward.
Yep.
And my question was, you know, I'm looking at the aerial now. I'm not sure when this was done in Google, but the tree that you're proposing, I should say, this tree here at the corner on your map, is that this existing one? or
Yeah,
is that-
these are existing.
Okay.
These 3 big ones are still existing. Well, this big one here is still existing, even though there's a huge branch that's broken on it now that
Okay.
somebody needs to take care of. But, yeah, these are existing. There's a smaller one. We're proposing all the new landscaping that'll go on around the outside of the new driveway
Got it.
and approach. Also, we're really trying to get a backup. So we don't really have a backup now. My sister has a hard time, you know, she has to back out onto Willow Valley.
Oh, you mean
Okay.
back your vehicle
So
out?
now we can actually back our vehicle up on the property and then head out direct,
Face out.
Okay.
facing directionally out. We're just trying to,
Great.
and that all involves this new garage.
Okay.
Any other commission
Is there any
questions?
proposed fencing besides the gate?
Not that I'm aware of. There is a fence along this entire side here behind the Photinia. So this entire side is fenced now, all the way around. But there is no fencing on this side.
So the existing fence would be?
Yeah, that's the same fence.
Gotcha.
that's there.
Thank you.
There's no other commission questions. Is there any public comment? Anybody online? Nobody?
Nobody online.
All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
Go for it, Rod.
Yeah. Oh,
I
sorry.
still have 3 more minutes.
Here, we can
Wait,
make
did
that
we-
go away.
Sorry, what's that? Go ahead.
You
Go
good with
ahead.
the architecture?
Were there any questions about the architecture?
Architecture, it looks like a well-designed project. In my opinion, I think it looks like a nice aesthetic. I don't even actually have concern with visibility to the garage, but if you're trying to create your own privacy, then that's another matter. my questions regarding the fence and so forth, and is with the addition of a gate, it does change the energy, which is not a common feature in our neighborhoods. And so keeping a mind to, this kind of open, friendly neighborhood feel that I think is part of the definition of Nevada City architecture. I'd love to see that remain intact and not start to close off so much. I think that you see that a lot more in urban areas and places that we don't know our neighbors, but here we do. Regarding the encroachments, existing encroachments, I appreciate your acknowledgement with plans to remove those. I'm not sure if we could actually make that a condition of approval, but I do think that encroachments are important for the livability of our neighbors. And also, again, there was a public comment, I'm not sure if you read in the agenda, from someone just commenting about how, if we continually make, approve encroachments, even setbacks to the road, then that also changes the spaciousness of what it feels like to drive about, in town and so forth. So can we make the removal of these encroaching structures part of the condition of the approval? Or, they've stated the intention, but things change, time, people, I guess that's a Russ question.
I think that would be, how did the encroachment permission come about in the first place?
True.
Would we be undoing something that's already legitimate?
I didn't look into that very, very much because it wasn't really related to the project at hand.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
agree,
not
I
sure
agree.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Russ, what is your advice here?
Did I hear that the applicant was willing to commit to that?
They
Course of action?
proposed that it would be a future project, right?
Yeah, this is a future project to remodel this portion of the property on the backside, in which at that time we would be pulling back to meet our setback. Now, my understanding in the field of architecture and design is that when we address that sort of thing, then,
It could be a condition of approval then.
Then that can be a condition of approval. But prior to doing anything to it, my understanding or my experience in many years now, that's not something that, we can be mandated to do. We're not trying to avoid that by any means. We want to do that. That's our intention. But
Yeah, my sense is that would have need to have been discussed with the applicant during the first 30 days of their initial submittal, when we gave them comments back. What do you think about that, Russ?
You're
Is
nodding,
Russ
Russ.
thinking?
Did you hear that? Lisa was asking your opinion about,
Adding a conditional approval at this point in time based on a requirement such as that seems a little bit after the fact, and that staff should have requested that within the first 30 days of when the
Submission.
when the submission came in.
Based on what I'm hearing in this discussion, we're not fully aware of if these are approved or not approved, and I agree with Lisa's comment. So I would not add that as a condition of approval at this time.
Thank you.
okay. Peter, did you have any comments?
No. Ready to go.
So I do have a question though, while I've got you here. So when we do address remodeling and rebuilding the back deck here, we're not building a building, we're only redoing a deck and redoing all of that landscaping and deck and everything. So that is not a requirement architecturally for a review, or is it? Would you be, this is not, we're not talking about a structure. Most of this deck is within 36 inches of grade, if not some of it's on grade. So,
Right.
just
Typically-
while I'm here, I'm trying to take
Yeah,
some advice.
definitely. Typically, like for like is staff level review and
Right.
not architectural review. So it would depend on the changes that were proposed. And if we could consider it like for like, if it was changing its size, but the look was the same.
Configuration's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you guys used to reviewing decks?
No, I don't think I've ever
You
seen just a
know.
deck.
Okay.
Well, it's usually been in conjunction
Right.
with a whole house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually a part of the structure or landscaping.
Right.
If there was a ADU consideration or a cabana consideration,
Right.
that's one thing, right? That's a vertical element, that's a structure.
Yeah, I'd suggest we,
You know, let's go out there. If it's a swimming pool, that's a whole other element, but I don't even know if you need an architectural review for that. Is that?
yeah, I'd suggest.
testing you.
Yeah, I'd suggest we hold this conversation and finish up.
Answer that question, please.
I make decisions on the things that come on the agenda to me.
Yeah, so I'd suggest we hold that conversation. Let's finish up this and
Yeah.
go
Sorry.
forward.
I mean, it is a structure, a deck is a structure, it requires a building
Yeah.
permit. But Russ is shaking his head no, and he's seen a lot of meetings come through the planning commission, so I don't think it requires the planning commission approval.
At this time. Okay.
All right, so my final comment, just to add on here, was I think the encroachment, you know, given the existing conditions
Right.
and the changes and everything that's there, it's less than the existing encroachment, and, you know, with everything else, that doesn't concern me. I also think it's great that you're looking to improve this corner. It is, yeah, it's a challenge corner, for sure.
Challenge corner.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
like the Onyx, it's a
yeah,
challenge.
with that.
Right.
Any other discussion?
No.
Sorry, I skipped over discussion before.
Want to propose a
Sure.
decision here?
Okay, I recommend that the commission finds the project exempt from environmental review pursuant to section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act for existing facilities. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
A second?
And you first? You first?
Yeah, Peter did first.
Okay, so we have Commissioner
Ermshar.
Ermshar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zandt.
Yes.
Passes 3-2, and 3-0 with 2 abstains.
The 2 recusals.
And second action, Planning Commission, acting as Architectural Review Committee, approves the architectural review application as conditioned and presented for the addition located at 100 Willow Valley Road, making findings 1 and 2, that the proposed addition and exterior alterations are generally compatible with Nevada City-style architecture, and 2, that the proposed addition and exterior alterations are compatible with the context of the surrounding neighborhood.
So moved?
Second.
And
We're getting this down.
thank you. Oh, Gabby?
Okay, Commissioner Ermshar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zandt.
Yes.
And third, which I don't have in my staff report here, is approval of the variance for the encroachment into the front setback.
So moved.
A second?
Commissioner Ermshar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zandt.
Yes.
3-0, 1, 2 abstains. Okay.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming
Yeah.
back. Thanks for your patience.
With that.
Thank you.
I think you're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You
All right.
mean, are you saying, you suggesting the real work starts now?
Yeah.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Is there anything else on the agenda? That's it? All right. Well, then we can let Tom be out there and I'll adjourn us.
Yay! Thanks, Rod.
Thank you. Good job. Good job. Oh, there.